Well, we wanted to take a few minutes. I'm here with MaryAnn. She's been on our worship team for now, we're saying kind of like over 10 years, like 12 years, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Been a key part of what we do. Just playing the violin. And also, one of the things I've always loved is not only being a musical player, but also being a worship leader as you play, and people seeing that you engage them as we lead worship. I want to take a few minutes just for her to share a little bit about her journey in worship leading and playing in the worship band.
Yeah. So my very first time playing in a church, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and it was for an Awana event.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Busted out the old hymns. I played "I Have Decided to Follow Jesus." And after that, grew up playing in church ensembles through high school, and then college was the first time really when they just introduced the chord charts, and it was time to figure out how to improvise and figure out how best to fit in.
Yeah, because probably there's not a whole lot of times they give you sheet music to play note for note.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's, I think, one of the places you excel, too, is knowing how to play what's right for a song and appropriate that way is so important. So
it very much so. And that was one of the things I learned, throughout that process, was just listening to each other, which you really didn't do before when the sheet music was already written out. You just followed what was there. So,
Well, talk a little bit more of that. So, what have been some of the things you've learned being a part? Well, you've, like I said, been with us for 12 years. What are some of the things you've learned and maybe even grown in, or as a part of the experience, has been something that's moved you down the road in leading worship?
Yeah, two things. I think the first is, we practice and rehearse during the week on our own, and a lot of it is the band notes, so we read off of that, and we just know where we're really supposed to fit in. But I think a lot of it, too, is when you're practicing, knowing that you're not married to that part, because we end up changing it a lot just based on, what the other musicians are doing and stuff once we get here for rehearsing on Sunday mornings.
It's one thing to do it alone, and then when you get everybody together, what you thought might have worked may need a little bit of massaging and adjusting, so kind of adapting when you come in. Yeah.
Exactly, yep, and really learning to listen. And the second part of it, the thing especially that I felt I learned the most here at Westgate was being able to engage with the congregation.
Okay.
And you said it very early on to us, Mark, that it's about facilitating for us. We're not just there on a stage to be characters. It's worshiping fully, but just facilitating that worship throughout the time.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about that, I love that you said that, because I think it's very true when you think about, the word I've heard somebody say is become music stand zombies, where you just focus in on the music stand or just what your instrument is, but realizing what we do has a visual component to it, that we can engage the congregation. And I think people assume the worship leader does that, but I think for all of us, if you're on the team, you are a worship leader. And like I said, you've done that so well for us.
Aww,
I mean, it's like,
thanks,
I know our people have experienced that. And that's part of why we're doing this, you guys. Just, MaryAnn's been with us for 12 years, and sadly, she is going to be moving with her family down to SoCal. And so I wanted you to have the opportunity to hear a little bit of her heart, and just hearing some of her experiences being with us as a worship team, because she set the bar for us in so many ways, for so many of our musicians, singers, and alike. So it's significant. I would just ask you, is there any kind of words of encouragement or anything you would really want to challenge us with as a worship team in your departure?
Yeah, there's three things. The first is to be grateful, and just what that means for me is just being able to play on Sundays, being able to play with such a great group of musicians. I'm super thankful for that. That's one of the things I know for sure I'm going to miss. The second is to be mindful. And what I mean by that is, as we're practicing throughout the week, obviously everybody's busy, but it's being able to take that moment, look at the song, and really understand what are the lyrics saying, what message are we trying to put out there in our worship.
So you're just like in preparation, mindfulness. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Super helpful.
And then the last thing is just to be prayerful. So for me, it's praying throughout the week, praying that Sunday morning for the folks that are coming in, and also taking that opportunity to engage in prayer with the worship team as well, because there's obviously lots of needs for us. We're not perfect people when we're going up and leading worship on Sundays, and there's a lot of things going on even in our lives, so just being prayerful of that.
And you have a front row seat. When you're on the stage, you can look out and you can see somebody, they look like they had a hard week. And I think a lot of times we assume the main worship leader is the person doing that, but that's a very pastoral role where you can look out at the crowd and pray for them. God, something's going on in their heart. I just love that. Well, I know you guys are feeling the same way I'm feeling, and we are going to deeply miss MaryAnn. I told her it's okay that she leaves, but it's a long commute to come back every Sunday to play. So hopefully we can have some guest appearances of that. But if you see her in the next few weeks, make sure to thank her for her role with us, and I know we'll all Miss you tons. Love you lots.
Thanks, Mark. Love you guys.